Okay, we are live. Both screens are going. So this is going to be another live recording of the Elite Development Podcast. We're going to be getting into the show in a couple of minutes here, but we're going to give it some time, let a couple of people filter in. Jada, thanks for being here. Tell me something that you're proud of from today, something good that happened as you tune in, and we'll be getting into the podcast in just a minute. All right, so personally, big win for me. I got a new client starting up at the gym this talk to him today. He's going to be starting up in September. Seems like an awesome guy. Seems like a great fit for everything that I'm trying to do with my company. And I put some really solid time into some new ideas that are going to be rolling out in the next couple of weeks. So I'm excited for my clients to all be able to take part in that. And just been really nailing in the vision for my company the last little while, and where I want to be within the next year, within the next 5, 10, 15 years. So quite happy with how things are going there. As you guys tune in, please let me know what's been going well for you, good things, anything you're proud of, sport wise or otherwise. Always like to start these off with a little bit of positivity, a little bit of something good, something that we're happy about. And before we get into the show as well, as always, the people that I want tuning into these live streams are people involved in the journey of high performance sport. Whether these are athletes, whether these are parents of athletes, coaches of athletes, people that are involved in that journey to help athletes develop into the best version of themselves and help athletes build the career that they're truly after in their sport. You may hear my cat in the background a little bit, so apologize for that in advance. But we're going to get into the show. And so, we're going to get into it in 3, 2, 1. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the show designed to help athletes gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. And today, we are going to be talking about acting with urgency. We're going to be talking about this today because acting with urgency is something I talk about a lot, whether with my own athletes, within my business, or just with friends and family in general. When you have big goals, act urgently and pursue them every single day. It seems like a pretty straightforward sentiment, but I think this is something that comes across a little bit the wrong way sometimes when I talk about it. So I wanted to address that on today's episode. And so when I talk about acting with urgency, like I just mentioned there, it really is talking about making the most of your days. It's really talking about, if you have big goals for an athletic career, you can't afford to be wasting days. You can't afford to be wasting time. You can't afford to lose out on all of this time that you have to create this career that you're after, to achieve these goals that you're after. There are too many people out there that want the same thing, too many people out there that are going after these same goals. So if you're wasting days, if you're wasting weeks, then that's too much time that these other people have to put the time in that you should be putting in, to learn the skill set that you should be learning, to develop the conditioning that you should be developing. And in turn, this gives them too much time to surpass you. This gives them too much time to take over and take away those goals and those dreams that you have for yourself. And so you really need to do something every day to separate yourself. You really need to do something every day that's going to show that you are the one who deserves to be there, that you are the one who should be continuing to achieve the goals that you have set for yourself, continuing to pursue them at the top level. And if you're not there and you're not able to separate yourself each and every day, then, like I mentioned, you're going to start to fall behind. And so when I talk about acting with urgency, I talk about pursuing these goals that you have for yourself every day. And I think sometimes it comes across in a way that I don't intend. So that's what I'm going to try to address today. What I really want to get across is that you can't waste days. You can't really afford to spend all this time screwing around if you really truly do want to achieve these goals you talk about. But what I want to make sure that it doesn't do to people is make them feel like every minute of every day has to be training. What I'm really hoping that I can get across today is that you can understand that when we talk about acting with urgency, when we talk about pursuing goals every day, it doesn't mean that every single minute of every single day has to be ruthlessly pursuing these goals. Because this is what I find happens to a lot of young athletes is they talk about the goals they have for themselves. They want to achieve big things in their sport. They want to make it to the top level. They want to be the best in the world. And so they think that how you do that is by training for 6 to 8 hours every single day. They think that how you do that is by, simply being the hardest worker in the room all the time. And now, obviously, I'm not going to tell anybody that it's a bad thing to work hard. We know that we need to work hard if we're going to achieve anything in life. But simply being the hardest worker in the room all the time is not the answer to succeeding in your sport. It's not the answer to succeeding in your sport, because if you're going to succeed long term, you need a healthy body to be able to do that. You need a healthy mind to be able to do that. And so when we talk about acting with urgency, yes, you cannot waste days. You cannot afford to waste long periods of time when you're pursuing high level goals in a sport. But you need to be focused on making sure that your body and your mind last long enough in order to be able to achieve these goals you have set out for yourself. Just as an example, myself as a power lifter, I suffered from exactly this. I had these huge goals. I wanted to win world championships. I wanted to compete for Canada. I wanted to do all these incredible things. I had goals of squatting 700 pounds one day under 181 pounds body weight, and these incredible strength feats that I wanted to achieve. And in my head, as a younger athlete, I thought the best way to build a heavy squat was simply to squat heavy. And so that's what I did. I squatted heavy basically every day. And for a long time, it worked really well. I got my squat up to 470 pounds. I was strong. I was winning competitions. I won national championships even at one point. But then what happened was I realized just how wrong my methods were when I blew up my back twice in a year. I blew up both my shoulders. I had struggles for years on end that easily could have been avoided by simply understanding that being the hardest worker in the room, lifting the heaviest, going the hardest, and taking little to no care for your body is not the way to build a successful career as an athlete. And so now as a coach, that's something I really strive to bring to my athletes, is that the goal is not simply to do the most. The goal is to be the smartest. The goal is to strategically use the time that you have in order to pursue your goals at the highest level that you can. So what I really hope that you can get across from this episode today, from this talk today, is that relentlessly pursuing your goals, acting with urgency towards your career in your sport, does not mean killing yourself every day with the hardest workout you can find. Does not mean simply going the hardest, being the one who's in the gym the longest. It means being smarter. It means training smarter. It means being the one who's willing to acknowledge when they need a recovery day and take it, not the one who grinds through needing the recovery day and doesn't take it. As much as a lot of people might think that it's soft to take the recovery days when you need it, this is what's going to actually allow you to compete in your sport for a long time at a high level. And just to touch on that as well, because this is something that I think ties into this topic quite well, the opinions of other athletes, the opinions of the people around you telling you you're soft for taking a recovery day and bragging about how much harder they're working than you, remember, that's their journey, not yours. And you're on your journey. And if you are the smart one that can rise above that pressure of having to be in the gym for ridiculous amounts of time every day, because that's apparently how we've always done it, and that's apparently the way that you're going to get to the top. If you can rise above that and you can be the one that is smart enough to understand that longevity comes from recovery, longevity comes from actually treating your body with respect and fueling it properly to be able to train the way you need to, you're going to be the one that's successful. You're going to be the one that's ultimately able to rise above the rest, and the one that's ultimately able to succeed in the sport because you took proper care of yourself. You allowed yourself the recovery days you need to be able to compete at a high level for a long time. Now, when I say that, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, but all these recovery days, they're going to be taking away from your skill set. They're going to be taking away from your conditioning. They're going to be taking away from your training. But just to go into that a little bit as well, think about it this way. If you go on a road trip, you need to put fuel in your car. If you go on a road trip, you need to put fuel in your car. If you don't put fuel in the car, what happens? It breaks down. And that is what you're doing to your body by training like a quote unquote savage every single day and not giving it the recovery that it needs. By grinding through every single one of those days, even when you're burnt out, fatigued, and you feel awful, you're not showing everyone how tough you are. You're simply beating your body down and not allowing it to perform at its best. Because the goal when you actually get to competition is not to be the one who can look back and say, I did more hours than anybody else. The goal when you get to competition is to be successful. And you're successful, yes, when you've trained hard, but you're successful when your body is able to hold up to the needs that the competition puts on it. You're successful when your shoulders, your knees, your back, your hips feel good and you're able to use them to their maximum capacity. You're successful when your body allows you to be successful. So in the pursuit of that success, treat your body with respect, take the recovery you need to take. Yes, train hard, but also recognize when you need those days off. Recognize when you need those lighter days. Be smart and think long term while you're training. I know this is a difficult thing to do sometimes because it's easy to, train every single day when you're young and think that, you're going to be just fine because you don't feel that bad anyway. But over time, those little aches and pains start to develop. Over time, those little things start to not quite work the way they used to or not quite feel as good as they used to. And over time, your body starts to break down. Over time, your body stops feeling good and you start really suffering from those what used to be little aches and pains. So if you're a young athlete listening to this, my challenge for you is think about how you truly feel. Don't just sit there and say, well, I've got a lot of energy. I feel good. Think about how you truly feel right now. How do your knees feel? How does your back feel? How do your hips feel? How do your ankles feel? And if you've got any lingering aches and pains, that might be a warning sign from your body. That might be your body trying to tell you, hey, it's time for a recovery day. And if you do take that recovery day and you've got teammates or people you train with that are calling you soft for taking a day off of training, keep it in the back of your mind that you're doing the right thing. Keep it in the back of your mind that you're the one here being smarter and thinking about your career as a whole instead of being the one that just has to prove how tough they are to everybody else. Because showing everybody how tough you are and how heavy you can lift and how hard you can go, even when you're sore and in pain, might feel cool right now, but it sure as hell doesn't feel cool when you're 21 years old, broken, and feel like you can barely walk anymore, let alone lift weights. I say that from personal experience. It's been a long, difficult road trying to get out from under the damage that I caused to myself. And so I hope that you guys can all learn a little bit from me. You guys can all take a little bit away from my experience and understand recovery and fueling your body the right way are the way that you are actually going to be successful long term. The way to be successful long term is not to be the one who shows everybody how tough they are by grinding through every single day when they're beat up, fatigued, burnt out. The one that is going to be successful long term is the one that can rise above that, the one that can treat their body with respect, give it what it actually needs, and think about the long term instead of the short term. So to recap all of that, just before we wrap up, we're talking today about acting with urgency. So yes, I want you all to take away from this that you do need to train hard to achieve your goals. You do need to train hard to rise through the ranks, to become a professional athlete, to achieve that dream career that you're hoping to achieve. But acting with urgency does not mean killing yourself in the gym 7 days a week. Acting with urgency does not mean being the person who is in the gym more than everyone else, no matter what. Acting with urgency means being the smartest and strategically using the time you have to achieve the goals you have set. So that is it for me. That is it. That is all. If you tuned into this, I appreciate you taking the time. I do see some people that tuned in live, so thank you for that. And if you're watching this back on a replay, or if you're listening to the podcast, I would greatly appreciate a review for the show, a rating for the show on all major podcast platforms. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. And I'd love to hear what you got, what you took away from the episode today. So drop me a comment, drop me a review. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever time you're listening to this. That's all for me, and I'm looking forward to talking to you next time.